Hello, students. Welcome back to your history class. We're doing chapter 4, the Central Islamic lands. We had spoken about the Abbasid Empire last time, and today we will see how it broke and the rise of sultans. The Abbasid state became weaker from the 9th century because Baghdad's control over the distant provinces started to decline. And because of the conflict between pro Arab and pro Iranian factions in the army and bureaucracy, and so its hold became weaker. In 810, a civil war had broken out between the supporters of Amin and Mamun. These were the son of the Caliph Harun al-Rashid. And this deepened the factionalism and it created a new power bloc of Turkish slave officers called Mamluk. Shiism once again competed with Sunni orthodoxy for power, and a number of minor dynasties rose, such as Tahirids and Samanids in Khorasan and Transnoxia. So their children were fighting with each other, and hence there was a segmentation in the empire. Abbasid power was soon limited to central Iraq and western Iran, and that too was lost in 945 when the Buyids, a Shiite clan from Caspian region of Iran, captured Baghdad. The Buyid rulers assumed various titles, including the ancient Iranian title of Shah, but not that of a caliph. They kept the Abbasid caliph as a symbolic head of their Sunni subjects. So they did not take the head, they did not name their emperor the caliph. They called it Shah or any other name, but they let the caliph remain as the symbolic head of the Sunni subjects. So over here we saw that Abbasid became a weaker state because of a conflict within it. Okay, both the children of Harun al-Rashid started to fight amongst themselves, and these led to the development of a number of dynasties. Then the Buyid captured Baghdad, and finally they let the caliph remain as the religious head of the Sunni community. The decision to abolish the caliphate was a shrewd one because another dynasty, Shiite dynasty, the Fatimids, had ambitions to rule the Islamic world. The Fatimids belonged to the Ismaili subsect of Shiism and claimed to be descended from the Prophet's daughter, Fatima, and hence they thought that they were the sole rightful rulers of Islam. From their base in North Africa, they conquered Egypt in 969 and they established Fatimid Caliphate. The old capital of Egypt, Fustat, was replaced by a new city, Kahira, that's Cairo today, and was founded on the rise of planet Mars. The two rival dynasties, they patronized the Shiite administrator poets and scholars. Then came the Turks. Now, between 950 and 1200, the Islamic society was held together by not one single political order or a single language or culture, but by common economic and cultural patterns. Unity in the face of political divisions was maintained by the separation between state and society. The development of Persian as a language of Islamic high culture and the maturity of dialogue between intellect traditions, scholars, artists, merchants, who moved freely within the Islamic lands, assured the circulation of ideas and manners. Some of these also relocated down to the level of villages due to conversions. The Muslim population, that is less than 10% in the Umayyad and the early Abbasid periods, increased enormously. The identity of Islam as a religion and cultural system separate from other religions became much sharper, which made the conversion possible and more meaningful. A third ethnic group was now added to the Arabs and Iranians with the rise of Turkish sultanates in the 10th and 11th century. The Turks were nomadic tribes from Central Asian steppes of Turkestan. They were skilled riders and warriors, and they entered Abbasid, Samanid, and Buyid administrations as slaves and soldiers, rising to high positions on account of their loyalty and military abilities. The Ghaznavid Sultanate was established by Alp-Tejin and was consolidated by Muhammad of Ghazni. Like the Buyids, the Ghaznavids were a military dynasty with a professional army of Turks and Indians, but their center of power was in Khurasan and Afghanistan. The Abbasid caliphs were not rivals but a source of legitimacy. So the Turks were a nomadic tribe from Central Asia, from Central Asian steppes, who gradually and slowly converted to Islam. They were skilled riders and warriors, and they had entered the Abbasid, the Samanid, and the Buyid administration as slaves, and they were slowly rising to position only on account of their loyalty and military abilities. The Ghaznavid Sultan was established by Alp-Tejin and was consolidated by Muhammad of Ghazni. The Ghaznavids were a military dynasty with a professional army of Turks as well as Indians. The Abbasid caliphs were not rivals but a source of Ghaznavids' legitimacy for Ghaznavids. Muhammad was eager to receive the title of Sultan from caliphs, and the caliph was willing to support the Sunni Ghaznavid as a counterweight to Shiite empire. Okay, so the Muhammad was conscious of being the son of a slave, and he was so he was more eager to receive the title of Sultan from caliph, and the caliph were willing to support the Sunni Ghaznavid as a counterweight to Shiite power. The Seljuk Turks entered Turan as soldiers in the armies of Samanids and Karakhinids. They later established themselves as a powerful group under the leadership of two brothers, Tukhril and Chakri Beg. Taking advantage of the chaos following the death of Muhammad Ghazni, the Seljuks conquered Khurasan in 1037, and they made Nishapur their first capital. So at Fatimid dynasty in Egypt, it became more powerful and they became the new center of the Muslim world. One group which came to power in this region was Seljuk Turks. The Turks played a large role in military and many rose through the ranks to gain a lot of political power. So the Seljuk entered the scene as soldiers and they later established themselves as, powerful group under the leadership of two brothers, Tukgril and Chakri Beg. After the death of Muhammad of Ghazni, they conquered Khurasan and they made Nishapur their capital. The Seljuks next turned their attention to western Persia and Iraq, which was ruled by Buyids, and they restored Baghdad to Sunni rule. The Caliph Al-Kam conferred on Tughril Bey the title of Sultan in a movie that marked the separation of religious and political authority. The two Seljuk brothers, they ruled together in accordance with the tribal notion of rule by the family as a whole. And this was succeeded by his nephew, Alp Arsalan. During the Alp Arsalan's reign, the Seljuk Empire extended to Anatolia, that is modern day Turkey. From the 11th century to 13th century, there was a series of conflict between European Christians and Arab states. This will be discussed soon. And then at the beginning of 13th century, the Muslim world found itself on the verge of a greater disaster. This was the threat from Mughals. The last but the most decisive of all nomadic assaults on the settled civilization was by the Mughals. So this is how the caliphate was broken up and sultans rose. So I want you all to now study about the rise of sultans. We'll see a short video for that. See this one. We will not finish the entire one, but if you all want, you all can search for this, or I can leave the link. I will leave the link in the description box if you want to finish this one.
86 CE, the Abbasid Caliph Al-Hadi passed away. His brother Harun al-Rashid ascended to the throne. On the same night, the future Caliph Al-Mamun was born. Harun became a father and the Caliph within the same night. This night is now remembered as the Night of the Three Caliphs. Before the Abbasids, the first Umayyad Caliph, Muawiyah, had collected many manuscripts in his personal library in Damascus. However, he didn't have texts from Hellenistic or pagan faiths translated because he didn't want them to influence Islam in its infancy. Even though the Umayyads started this, they didn't go much further because of civil wars, notably the crisis of succession after Muawiyah II's death, and then obviously the Abbasid Revolution, both of which happened within 70 years of each other and hindered any Umayyad attempts at sponsoring scientific works. The Abbasids came to power through the support of the Persians, so even though they were ethnically Arab, they modeled themselves more Persian than Arab. As a result, Abbasids took many traditions from the Persians. The Persian Sassanids had a certain love for knowledge. Their great king Khosrow I, also known as Anushirvan, had collected many scientific works during his reign. He had them translated to Persian and stored in the Great Academy of Gandhishapur. He was a patron to many scholars of his era. So, looking forward to Persians like him, the Abbasids tried to do the same. Another reason for why the Abbasids, and before them the Umayyads, wanted to sponsor scientific works was because I think they felt like a backwater civilization. Arabs were, till recently, tribes living in a very hostile environment, fighting each other over basic resources like water. They didn't have much culture other than poetry and storytelling. Maybe when they looked at the Greek Byzantines or the Persian Sassanids, they felt envious and wanted to have the same prestige, to commission works of art and build astonishing buildings. Muawiyah actually modeled himself after the Byzantine emperor. He built a royal court in Damascus like the one in Constantinople. So I do think the Arabs wanted to have a legacy. The final reason, and this is the controversial one, was religious. The very first word of the Quran revealed to Muhammad was read. The Quran mentions seeking wisdom again and again. When Muhammad took prisoners after the Battle of Badr, their ransom was that those who are literate must teach 10 Muslims to read and write each. Many examples can be found from the Quran and Muhammad's life that preach the importance of learning. not just Islam, but also other things. Muhammad is recorded to have said, "The ink of the scholar is more holy than the blood of the martyr." These days, many people reject this reason because then they'd have to admit that religion might have been the reason for something good after all. You might argue that Muhammad and the Quran only meant religious studies, but you can make the same case for the opposite as well. When Harun al-Rashid came to power, the Abbasid Empire was going strong. It was controlling a majority of the trade routes between the East and the West. It was controlling the fertile plains of the Nile and the Euphrates. Wealth was flowing into Baghdad, more gold than the Abbasids knew what to do with. And as you might know, you can't spell Golden Age without gold. Harun decided to use that money to fund scholars, writers, and artisans. Harun is probably the most well-known caliph. Even in Western countries, Harun's name is more famous than any other caliph. There's poems about him written by poets like Tennyson. This comes from romanticization of Harun through works of literature like Arabian Nights. In fact, I think if Harun knew he'd be remembered through stories and anecdotes, he would probably smile because during his lifetime, Harun loved storytelling. He had been educated in theology, philosophy, and poetry. I think that was one of the reasons that motivated him to sponsor science and culture. We don't really know where the House of Wisdom came from. It was either established by Harun or his grandfather Al-Mansur. Al-Mansur, after founding the city of Baghdad, had kept a library of books and manuscripts in his palace. He might have even moved Muawiyah's personal collection there as well. Muawiyah's collection was also called the House of Wisdom. It's possible that Harun made the library open to scholars, or maybe he created a new complex to serve as a center of learning in the tradition of the Library of Alexandria. There haven't been any archaeological discoveries, so our understanding of the House of Wisdom is vague because it mostly comes from records kept by people who worked there. Harun attracted scholars from all over the empire by making sure they were paid very generously. Their salaries at the time compared to modern day athletes. As other centers of learning around the world were in decline, the House of Wisdom was flourishing. The budget of the House of Wisdom is said to be equivalent of double the budget of the United Kingdom's Medical Research Council. So scholars from all over the world came to Baghdad. This created a diverse environment. People of different faiths, cultures, and backgrounds were intermingling, adding to each other's understanding of the world. Must have been quite a sight. As
So if you want to read and learn about their children, I request you to complete the video. We've seen half today. I'm going to end the chapter over here. We've seen breakup of caliphate and rise of sultanates today. We will start with the crusades tomorrow. Okay? Your homework will be to make up the notes and make a timeline of the chapter. There will be a timeline at the end of the chapter. So you can take it from there and find the pictures, appropriate pictures for each one of them. Okay? Till then, stay home, stay safe, take care, and keep learning.